We've still got people logging in. So thank you to everyone that's joined us already. We're going to kick off. We're going to let some people join in as the presentation goes on. So I'm going to introduce you to a lovely guy that I've known for years and years, actually, Jamie, which is scary, makes me feel old. And we're going to be talking about mental health in the workplace now. We're all probably aware that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's been allocated for the month of May. And we've seen a lot, and we actually rescheduled this meeting. So it was meant to be earlier in the month, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we postponed it because I came down with the lurgy, and it wasn't COVID. I escaped COVID, but I came down with the lurgy, and we had to postpone it. And then the stars have aligned, and we've managed to book Jamie and pull him away from his busy full-time job to come and sit and have a chat with us today. So we're going to talk about mental health awareness, and I think let's kick off. Jamie, tell us a bit about you and where you're from and what you're up to at the moment before we get into picking your brains.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, before I start, I just want to say thank you to you guys for having me along. And excuse me if I sound quiet or out of breath. I am currently working from home with COVID. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to God for keeping me here. And it's gonna become apparent why I've said that. But to introduce myself, I'm Jamie Archer. I'm by day, I'm a construction director. I work in the construction industry. That's actually where I first came across Raquel. She was a recruitment consultant working for Think Recruitment. She popped out to one of my sites one day, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I'm also a men's mental health advocate, Stop Suicide ambassador, and I set up an organisation. Well, I first had the idea in 2018, but it's only really this year it's been set up properly, called #AreYouOkMate. What I do is I work with organisations and sports clubs all about normalising the conversation around mental health and suicide, with the sole aim of breaking down the stigma so much that we can talk about it in the same way we talk about COVID and things like that.
Okay. I know what you've been up to because I've seen your YouTube, I have seen your live streams on Instagram, and you've got a really bloody good following, haven't you?
Yeah. I'm very blessed.
The interaction that you get is incredible.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I've been very lucky. I forgot to mention I've also a podcaster as well. I've got a podcast available to download on Spotify. So if any of you want something to listen to later on in the day, let me know and I'll hook you up with the link. But yeah, no, I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky. And I think that there's two ways of looking at this. One is brilliant. I've got all these people that want to know what I'm up to. Two is it's actually quite sad because it means that there is people out there that do need help and haven't perhaps found a voice or haven't perhaps found an outlet for them to go and engage in education surrounding mental health and suicide awareness.
Because we spoke about, and I know, to give you a bit of background, I mean, I'm a huge, mental health for me is a huge thing, and I struggle, and I'm as nutty as a squirrel's fart, and I have suffered with mental health issues, and even working at Hobs, to be honest. I mean, there's going to be people on this call, Jamie, that are probably managing a team or part of a team or in a position where they're responsible somewhat for team members. And I spoke to you earlier in the month about how do you spot it? Like, what do you look for? And I kind of know because I suffer. And there's people on this call that probably have their own issues. But if you're in a manager's position or you're responsible for teams, what do you look for? Is there any, and I hate using this phrase, but are there any red flags to look for or behaviours to look for within a team?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as part of the world we live in nowadays, we all work on average 45 hours a week, some 50 and some 60, some 70 in management positions. Now, that's more physical contact time than you get with your family and friends. So you do actually get to really know the people, well, supposedly really get to know the people behind the workplace. So one thing that I do in my team, because like I say, I am a construction director, I do have a team of guys that work for me. And it was the same when I was a site manager. So, I've been a construction site manager. My biggest site, I had over 150 blokes working on site. And the red flags, now we could say, right, a red flag is going to be dangerous behavior. Are they going to be drinking too much, or are they going to be tired? Are they going to be overeating? They're going to be quiet. But for me, it's anything outside of their normal. Do you know what I mean? So let me give you a couple of frames of references, Raquel. So you could have one guy that is normally really engaging, really happy. Can you hear me, by the way? There's someone just fired up a disc cutter outside my house.
Yeah, lovely clip.
Yeah, so it could be really engaging, really happy, really bubbly. Then all of a sudden, those personality traits could start to tail off. So they could start being really quiet at work. They could start not engaging so much with their colleagues. They could be quieter in meetings, because we've always all got that one person in our team that in a meeting, and it's normally me, that sees it as an opportunity to be a bit of a class clown and make everyone else laugh. Is that starting to happen? Or let's look at that other side of the coin. You might have someone who, she may be a bit quieter, she may be a bit more timid, yet all of a sudden we're noticing her coming in hungover a little bit more, or she's going out a little bit more. She's a little bit more not herself, in the sense that if she's a little bit louder at work, if she's starting to be late on her deadlines at work, it's really looking for these changes in behaviors, but subtle changes, because at the end of the day, we are people, we're not robots, we're not made of wood. So whenever we're struggling, one way or another, it will manifest itself.
So from a team perspective, from like a project manager or a site manager, or even like any managerial position, or a teammate, I guess, because you can spot these changes. It's whatever isn't your normal. So if someone's usually on time, but they start being late,
yeah,
or I'd imagine even start being dead early, and you see them waiting in their car.
They could exactly that, because like that's a great example, Raquel. Someone who's normally a little bit late or gets into work bang on time, are they starting to work a little bit more, but not work for productivity? So when you open up in the morning, have they been waiting in their car for an hour? At night, are they staying behind a little bit later than they normally do? And the reason you can use that as a red flag is, what are they trying to hide from at home? Do you know what I mean? So they may be dealing with stuff at home. They may be dealing with a struggle or a test at home, that work then becomes a bit of a sanctuary for them, that they trying to use that as an escape. I've been guilty of it. Yeah. I've been guilty of when I've struggled. I've been guilty of getting to work too early and staying too late. But also, it's a sign that I was stressed, that I couldn't relax. So I thought to myself, right, well, I can't relax at home, so I might as well just go to work. My brain wouldn't switch off. So that's, again, it's another sign to look out for, is someone working too hard. Now, there's going to be senior managers in this room, and like I say, I'm a construction director, so I get it. How can my staff work too hard? Believe me, you'll know if your staff are working too hard. You don't want your staff to burn out. That your biggest asset as a business is the people that work within it. And if they're working too hard to the point where they're going to burn themselves out, it then becomes counterproductive. Like I don't want any of the guys that work for me coming to work stressed, because that's not what we're there for. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's hard, isn't it? Because there's a real thin line, because you hit the nail on the head that every business wants to get the max out of their staff. And it's really strange that you've just said that, because I was in a meeting last week, and actually one of our HR team said that, like, staff having breaks, like, it's also getting away from a computer. It's having fresh air. It's sitting outside and having the sun on them.
Of course.
It's about having that break away. And I guess that just that it's that break, isn't it? And it's there's a lot to be said for having that, even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour walking around the block. But so Jamie, you go in and you see a colleague or you see a team member and their behavior has changed over a period of time. It could be days, it could be a couple of weeks. But what do you do when you've noticed? How do you even bring that up? Because I think I'd struggle to have that conversation if I didn't have a great rapport with that person, or they weren't a direct teammate of mine.
Yeah.
How would you approach that, or what do you do with that information?
So it is hard, and let me put this out here. It's not a 5-minute fix. It's about creating a culture. It's about creating an environment where having a conversation surrounding mental health is allowed. It's allowing that conversation. It's breaking down those barriers, because no matter how we look at it and for how many, and don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted, like Mental Health Awareness Week, Suicide Awareness Week, Mental Health Awareness Month. Yep, I'm bang up for all of that. However, it's more than just a week. It's 365 days a year. It's every single day of our lives that we have to have this conversation. And it's, like I say, it's allowing that conversation and breaking down those barriers. And this is what I work with organizations in doing. So it's where the phrase "Are you okay, mate?" come from. It's just asking that question, "Are you okay, mate?" Now, I'll just give you a little bit of a story on me on to how I first implemented that. So we're all aware of Time to Talk Day. Now, Time to Talk Day is a fantastic day. It does what it says on the tin. Like, today is a day to talk about mental health. Now, when this first came about, when I first heard about it, I got an email one day from my construction secretary as a site manager. And it said, like, today's Time to Talk Day. Please stop your site for 15 minutes and give out like these. There's like leaflets and stuff that had arrived on site. We could print off like resources. And it was like, please stop your site for 15 minutes today and put these in the canteen and get the guys to have a look. And I was like, do you know what? Brilliant, great idea. But knowing lads on building sites, like I know lads on building sites, if I stick these in the canteen, likelihood is the back of it's just going to get drawn to right out their footy accumulator. Do you know what I mean? Like that, they're not going to engage with this stuff. So what I actually did is I sent my forklift driver around the site, and I said, do me a favor. I said, tell everyone to get back here at 9 o'clock this morning. I want to talk to them. And then I sent my labourer, I sent him up the shop to go and get some biscuits and some teas and coffee. And I set up my site canteen, and I got all the lads to come in. And it was funny because as they was walking in, I could hear them chuntering to themselves, like, oh, what's he want? Like, what have we done now? Like, thinking it was a toolbox talk or a telling off. And I was like, just shut up, come in, sit down, I want to talk to you. And they sat down, and then I told my story. I sat down and I opened up to them, and I told them about my battle with my own mental health and the fact that I'd been battling it since the age of 16. I told them the fact that I'd attempted suicide in 2017. I told them that just 6 months previous to that, me being sat in that room with them, I'd been signed off work with depression and anxiety for 3 months. And I said that the reason I'm telling you this is just to let you know that this is a safe space for you. Like, this is like, if I, your site manager, can open up to every single one of you right now and lay myself bare, just know that you can talk to me about absolutely everything. Because I go back to the point that I made at the beginning of this. We spend 45 to 50 hours a week with these people. And whilst we can all make noises on our timelines, right? We can all go, yeah, Time to Talk Day, Mental Health Awareness Week. Yeah, brilliant. Let's post about it. Please do. Please carry on posting about it. But also take that into the real world and take that into real time and say, look, actually, I am someone you can talk to. You are allowed these conversations, because for all the good we do, people are afraid to have those conversations because it's not comfortable, right? You know, there'll be people in this room that can think back to when AIDS first came about in the 80s. And it's funny, actually, because I was watching Only Fools and Horses the other day. And Rodney was about to go on holiday with Cassandra. and they were talking, he was talking to Del Boy about him and Cassandra are going to sleep together for the first time, and there's a stigma attached to using protection, which was obviously to do with AIDS. So back then, so we'll all talk about AIDS really freely and openly nowadays, and it's taken 20 odd years to get there.
Yeah,
mental health is exactly the same. It used to be an uncomfortable conversation. Suicide, even now, there's not a single person sat in this room right now that if you was to actually sit down and talk to them about suicide and tell them a story about suicide, there's something inside of you that feels uncomfortable about that.
Because it's a taboo, isn't it? But we see it, and I think it's really tough, because I think mental health, it doesn't come with you don't get sick. It's not like you're
can't see it
physically being sick. It's not like you've got a rash. It's not like you've broken a leg and your leg's in plaster. It's not like a spoonful of cough mixture will help you and it'll all go away. I think and this is my opinion and my experience of mental health. I think that it's really, really tough, and it's hard to admit as well that something's not right, that you're off your own form, and especially when you're out there. And I do the jazz, my mum calls it the jazz hands syndrome, that I'm like, everything's fine, and I go to work and I'm bouncing through the wall and everyone's like, she's absolutely balmy, she's crazy, because I'm just full of it all the time. But I think that there's another side of it, and it's super hard to fix. And I think that and this is the big thing, and I know that us as a business, we're investing as a business a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we're also investing in training, so mental health trainers and stuff like that, and I love it. And there's going to be a lot of people on this call that are probably in businesses that don't have the finances to do what we've done, to invest financially in it. But you talk about having a safe environment where you pulled the guys off site. And you sat down and you just said, as simple as it is, let's have a cup of tea and let's have a biscuit together, and here's what I'm about. What can other businesses or other teams that don't have incredible funding at their fingertips, what can you advise? What would be your non-negotiable ways of allowing that environment to become a thing?
It's facilitating a conversation, right? So whilst we've just spoke about budget, and as with anything in life, budget will dictate to the level of what you can do things, right? So right at the top end of the budget, you can go out and you can book Tony Robbins, and he'll come in and he'll deliver this wonderful day's training, and everyone will walk away feeling buzzed. But for the micro business, it's very simple. Even as a micro business, you have to train your staff. You have to develop some form of you have to offer some form of training, albeit with health and safety. So we could talk about fire safety in an office, right? Even if you're an employee in a micro business employing 3 people, you have to ensure that they are kept safe at work. So why not dedicate a morning to just talking about mental health? There are so many free resources available online, on YouTube. Why not just, if you're a small business, micro business with 4 people, why not say, I'll tell you what we're going to do today is we're going to forget about productivity for 3 hours. So in the morning, when we meet up and we have a coffee and we have a team catch up, we'll talk about our projects. But before we do that, we're just going to check in with each other. Like, how are you? How are things at home? Now, I understand people, and this is where I say it's down to creating a culture. Initially, you might be met with, yeah, I'm cool, right? Okay, that's fine. But follow that up. So at your next monthly one, say do it on week 1, month 1, then week 1, month 2, do it again. Sit down for half an hour between the 4 of you and do another check-in. What's happened with you this month? Oh, nothing. All right. And it might take you 3 or 4 months, but once people understand that is a safe space to talk, they'll start opening up.
So it takes time, and I guess
Of course, you're not going to do it. You won't do it in 5 minutes. You with some people you will. You might get someone on this call right now that goes, "Oh my God, if my office do that tomorrow, I'm going to let my boss know that I'm struggling mentally," which is fantastic, because that's what a lot of, see, there's this misconception that people don't talk about mental health because of the stigma, and that's right. Like that is right. But a lot of it is because they don't know they're allowed. I met with the CEO of Mick George. Yeah, met with him 4 months ago. I sat down and we had this exact conversation. I said to him, I said, "What's the challenge? One of the challenges you find with engaging your staff about mental health as a senior manager?" And this is to George, by the way. And he said, "We don't like to ask. It's not that we don't care. It's like we don't want to feel like we're stepping on toes." And I was like, right, okay,
They don't know what to do with the information when they get it, Jamie. Do you think that's
what
do you do if someone reaches
not
out?
that. It's like there's this mentality that I'm so keen to break down of, you're my boss, you don't care. Do you know what I mean? So for example, let me use the Mick George dynamic. So the CEO of Mick George, he's, from what I got from that, is he wouldn't feel comfortable saying to one of the guys that works in his yard, like, "How are you?" Like, and I said, right, look, I'm not expecting you as the CEO, because you're a very busy man, like extremely busy. I'm not expecting you to walk around your yard and talk to every single bloke. But why not get your team leaders? Why not sit them down for half a day, offer them a load of resource, offer them a load of signposting to say, look, just engage in the lads. So when they're having a cup of tea, say, "Is everything all right? Are you okay?" It's simple. Are you okay? It's just a question. But that question is so simple. The simplicity of it is quite profound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're
It's
right.
3 words. Are you okay? But,
and I think a lot of people, like, it's human nature, isn't it? And I always, growing up, we had this thing that my mum was always like, smile and say thank you to someone that opens the door with you. And people always go, "Well, that's manners. That's a totally different thing." And I think when you are dealing with someone's mental health, and someone speaks to you or someone smiles and says something, you don't know necessarily everyone's home life, because we've all got a story to tell, and it's how we deal with it. But I guess that smile could be the only smile that person gets all day.
yeah.
And that's the difference between them seeing a little bit of hope, I think, and without getting scary or dark or anything like that about it. That's a big thing, isn't it?
I'd be interested, and it's a question I'm going to put to the room, actually, and I want you all to think about it whilst you're sitting and watching this. If one of your staff members tomorrow was to pull you to one side and say they've been having suicide ideation, that they struggle with depression, anxiety, how would you act? It's not a question to catch anyone out. Like, I don't want anyone to think, "Oh, hold on, what's this bloke at? Is he like trying to?" No, I'm not doing that. What I want you to do is I want you to answer that question honestly as well. And what that will do is that will let you know that about the culture that you work within, and are you in a position to change that culture? So are you a decision maker within the company? So off the back of that, if the answer is, which, by the way, had I not been through what I went through and lost 6 friends to suicide, as well as a suicide attempt to myself, my answer would have been the same. Is right now, if someone tells me, it's like, right, cool, let's talk, let's figure this out, let's get you some help. But the answer, which I'm willing to say a lot of people would be actually, I wouldn't know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
And what can you do within your organization to change that culture? I don't expect you to answer it now on this call. It's just something I want you to take away with you. What can I do to change my culture? Or can I have a conversation that can change the culture within the business, that allows that conversation, that allows those people that are struggling to go, actually, yeah, I need help? Because whilst it's brilliant that people get put on mental health first aid courses, again, absolutely love it. A lot of it is a tick box exercise. Like, people are doing it because they have to do it. So let's give them the tools and the equipment and the skills necessary to say, actually, yeah, I've got this mental health first aid training, but also I'm someone safe that you can talk to.
So if you've, and this, and I know me and you talk, we could talk for hours about various stuff, but when it comes down to, you talk about opening up and giving them an area that they can verbalize their problems, their concerns, because one thing that one person doesn't worry about, the other one has sleepless nights over.
Of course.
And we talk about that space, and we've also covered about being from a big organization and being able to plan money into certain courses or certain ways of doing it, but taking it back to that smaller group, maybe that small group within a national company or an international company, or maybe it's a team of 10 people that are working out of that shared office space.
Mm-hmm.
The key thing is to have a safe environment. And I guess, Jamie, that comes with trust, doesn't it? Because I wouldn't have just spoken to anybody when I struggle.
Yeah,
I have
100%.
friends that see stuff in me, they see my behavior change. And I guess there has to be a stop point that whatever is discussed remains confidential to a degree.
Yeah. So the prison service actually have a wonderful model from this. So I've not ever been inside, by the way, but
quick disclaimer.
But one of my friends, he's a prison. I've actually got several friends that are prison officers, and they've got a wonderful model within the prison service called listeners. Now, listeners are offenders themselves. They walk around with a badge on saying listener, that do just that. They listen. And what that does is an offender might not feel comfortable going up to a prison officer and saying, yo, let me have a talk. However, another offender that's been put on this training has got this listener badge. They can say, right, actually, yeah, I can talk to him. And then it remains completely impartial. Now, one of the things that I do is I work with leadership teams in business to deliver this model, to put this model into their business. So, they're like, are you okay, mate? Ambassadors, as it were. So they sit down with me for half a day. I tell my story to them, and I do a load of signposting exercises with them. So I work very closely with CPSL Mind. Like I say, I'm one of their Stop Suicide ambassadors. And what they do is they come on this half a day, are you okay, mate? I don't want to call it training because I hate labeling myself as a coach because I'm not a coach.
Awareness calls, Jamie.
Yeah, but they come and sit down with me. And afterwards, so whilst we have a mental health first aider, brilliant, it's an additional layer between the employee, the mental health first aider. It's these people that are on the front line. Do you know what I mean? So it is the guys in the canteen. It is one of the girls in the office. Do you know what I mean? Who organises the Christmas party for like, we've got a girl in our office right now. There's a girl in my office that everyone knows, from the MD right the way down to our yardsman. Everyone knows her. She'd be the ideal person to sit in on this because everyone trusts her. And yeah, so I based it around the prison service model of having these listeners and having these people that are trusted. Because let's go back to Mick George. So whilst the guy who's driving the loading shovel for Mick George will not feel comfortable speaking to the CEO of Mick George, he might well feel comfortable talking to the bloke he's been sat next to in the canteen for the last 5 years if he knows that he's been on this type of training. If he knows that actually, do you know what, I've been working alongside John for 5 years. He asks me every day how the kids are. We talk about the football. I perhaps could open up to him a little bit. And then from there, that person becomes like, he starts doing signposting. So he might say, yeah, and what you give that person who is this level between the mental health first aider and the employee is you'd give them a load of resources. So you'd give them a load of leaflets, a load of phone numbers, and also you can go human level. So whilst your man's opening up to John and telling him that he's having all these troubles, John could go, yeah, do you want me to call your wife for you? Or do you want me to sit with you while you call the doctor? Like, do you want me to come with you while we actually go and tell our supervisor? Or do you want me to tell our supervisor?
Yeah.
It's just, and what that does, it goes right back to, do you remember I said about creating a culture and allowing a conversation? It goes right the way back to there. And the ultimate aim, someone sat down with me probably 5 months ago and was talking about my business plan. And they said, what's the ultimate aim for Are You Okay, Mate? And I said, the ultimate aim for Are You Okay, Mate is for it not to exist. Have you ever heard of a business trying to put themselves out of business before they actually go into business? And the reason being is I want to work with people where they don't need to get me in. Do you know what? By all means, go and watch the YouTube channel, listen to the podcast, and keep doing all that amazing support that you're doing. But I ultimately don't want people to be told how to have a conversation. Do you know what I'm saying?
This is a big thing, isn't it? And I think because, and I hate to say it, and I don't want to offend anyone, I think it's definitely a generational thing. Because my parents it was never discussed. It wasn't something that was discussed at a home level. And I think even from businesses that I've previously worked at, no one ever spoke about it. And people say, oh, they're off with stress and stuff like that. We work very well as a business, and it's the royal we at Hobs. We are working definitely towards making that safe environment. And it's a bloody hard journey. And I've been through the process, and I came out of it reasonably in a good form. And I'm here. We're down nearly 4 years down the line since I was unwell, and I'm still here, and it hasn't affected my career or anything like that. So
it shouldn't do, though.
Yeah, it worked really well. But I think people have this thing, and I'm going to totally put you on the spot now, and I'm going to apologise.
That's fine.
But I think there's people on this call that will want to know, Jamie, if you could have a toolbox or your minimum entry level thing, your recommendation of qualities and hints and tips of a business out there that wants to approach, and I'm going to use the word, a fully working mental health strategy, one that could potentially, a lot of people have heard of people that have lost their lives, that have taken their lives or anything like that. What would be the recommendation from you for any business to implement, to have that wellbeing strategy in place? What's the non-negotiables from your perspective?
So the first thing to do is build it into your induction process. Have that conversation at interview stage. So every single one of us sat on this call right now at one point in time has filled out an application form for a job. On that application form, there's all these boxes that we have to tick. So we tick, and we tick our nationality. Yeah, then we get to another box where we're asked the question, do you suffer with any disabilities that may impact on your work? Yeah, I'm right, and stop me if I'm telling lies. Yeah, and what we do is, if it's yes, you'll get a box and it will say, please describe your disability. And because at any workplace, as you know, especially for the HR people in this, has to make reasonable adjustments for disability. Mental illness is that. It's an illness. It's a disability. I'm telling you now, at my worst, depression cripples me. I can't get out of bed. I can't concentrate. I can't eat. Over time, I learned, wrongly by the way, to hide that and to mask that. And the reason being is because I didn't want it to impact on my job. So if we could, an application process and an interview process, have those conversations. So application, whilst we go, is there any disabilities? Just put a box on it, including mental health. Then what that does is at interview stage, right, okay, cool. So Raquel's coming in for an interview with me today. I've got her details in front of me. I'm not saying go and put it on your CV, but I've got your application form in front of me. I've noticed that you've said there's a mental health issue. The first question is, are you comfortable talking about that? Don't go straight in and talk about it, because I'm telling you now, from someone with really bad anxiety, if someone was to come up to me and go, let's talk about your anxiety, my anxiety would say no. However, if someone was to just note that at an interview process, and then Yep, cool. Really like you as an employee. By the way, we get 2 months into our job, then all of a sudden I get unwell and I can't come into work. At HR or my boss, oh, do you know what? Actually, Raquel, she said on her application form that she suffers with depression and anxiety. Let me just put in a call. Like, let me just check that she's all right. And what we do is, if we put that right at the very base level, at interview stage, at application stage, you're saying to me as an employee, actually, this is a really safe space for me. I know that I'm going to be able to have a conversation should I need to. And that for me, that becomes your base for your mental health strategy. And then you can build on top of that. So if you like, that's your foundation. Yeah. And then we can build. So go out, get people put on your mental health first aid course, but also why not ask people just to become mental health champions? Have you got someone within your business that is the Vicky that books everyone on their courses, that organises the Christmas party that everyone knows and loves? Why don't we ask her if she wants to become our mental health champion? Have you got someone within your business that's got an online presence? Do you know what I mean? So again, we've all got people that everyone lives their life online and on social media. Have you got someone, a young person? Yeah. So this is for the people that have got young people within their business. Have you got someone that's got a large following on TikTok or Instagram? Cool. Why don't I ask them if they want to be our company's mental health champion? Post it on their socials. Ask them, do you want to manage our socials? And post about how well we're doing as a company for mental health, and then stick it on your LinkedIn. And again, so as this is just me. Before you start working for a company, you go and check out their website and check out their LinkedIn. Do you know, if I was to check out someone's website, and I'm just going to pause this here, like, I do a lot of work with a lot of young people. So I work with a lot of young footballers, currently working with, I'm going to do a bit of self-promotion here, currently working with West Bromwich Albion, Bolton Wanderers, Norwich City and Aston Villa. Social media is where they live their life. I'm a father to 2 young boys. If I was to look on a website and go on a company's website and saw their social pages, right, cool, let me click on Hobs Repro's social pages, then all of a sudden there's this person that they're championing mental health awareness on their socials. Actually, this is a really safe place. They really care about this sort of stuff.
And I guess really from a perspective of importance, it's a sensitive subject, isn't it? I think from a new recruit's perspective, if I was ever to leave Hobs, that would be something that I would look for as a new candidate, that they actually genuinely cared about the mental health and well-being of their staff.
Of course. Because
sometimes it's like you said, it's a tick box, but I think actually having people there and in place to support you, even to listen to you moan, I think sometimes, however it comes out and shows itself, I think is a really important piece, isn't it? Even for having new talent, because it's a huge tick box for a lot of candidates and individuals, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than knowing who you're employing and knowing your staff and who does what and your niches and your character traits within your employees or your teammates, as well as attracting new candidates, new talent. I think that's really important. Yeah, and it's something that I probably wouldn't have thought of either.
Yeah, it's because, like I say, and I go right back to the very beginning of this, it's creating a culture that says it's actually okay to talk about this stuff. And people don't not talk about it because they're horrible. I'd like to think so anyway. People don't talk about it either through lack of education, fear of talking about a taboo subject. And I go back to the Only Fools and Horses episode where Rodney didn't want to talk about wearing protection because there was a stigma attached to AIDS. We've moved on since then, and we need to move on in exactly the right direction, exactly the same direction, with mental health, because we need to talk about it in the same way we talk about physical health.
And I guess it's so teaming up the champions, teaming up that they know where to go, publicising help and support lines to be able to push them through them channels, as well as, and I love this, by the way, and we do it in our business, but we do it from a business perspective each morning where we have team meetings.
Yeah.
Where the team come together and we talk about jobs and stuff like that. And I guess there's people on this call that sit on project launches, tender launches, might be strategy of how to win this bad boy client. Why not say 10 minutes over and just have a cup of tea and say, tell us what's going on.
Exactly. Or on a nice day like this, why not go for a walk?
Yeah.
You know, at the end of your meeting, I'm sure there's people. I'm sure there's people sat in this call that work in these beautiful modern office buildings, have got beautiful grounds. And at the end of that meeting this afternoon, instead of going, yeah, right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and then going back to your laptop or going back to your computer, why not actually put your work off for 10 minutes and go, right, tell you what we'll do, let's just go for a walk together, go and get some fresh air together. Do you know what I'm saying? It's easy to remove the human element from work, really easy. The pandemic taught us that. However, one thing the pandemic did teach us is how much we miss that and how much it's needed. And actually, and I can round this off nicely, the fact that we spend 50 hours a week with our work colleagues, more contact time with my work colleagues than I do with my family. Actually, you people that I work with are my family, and I want to feel as safe with you as I do with my family at home. So just stop for 10 minutes at the end of that meeting and say that, come, let's go for a walk. Let's talk about the football. Let's talk about home, and bring that human aspect. And I promise you, you'll have an infinitely happier workforce.
Yeah. And do you know what? It's powerful, isn't it? I think. And it's just catching someone. If you do it for 4 weeks on the trot and get nothing, but then on the 5th week, someone opens up to you and says that they're experiencing a problem, that fair enough. I think every single one of us on this call will sit there and think,
well, it's trust.
How do I approach it? Yeah.
It's trust. I love an analogy, right? I absolutely love an analogy. I'm actually quite good at using them. And I'll give you a really good analogy. You're a puppy owner yourself. The first day you got your puppy, did it trust you? 100% implicitly trust you. I've got a cat. On her first day, do you think she trusted me? No. Or did it take time for her to actually go, yeah, do you know what? He does care and he's not going to hurt me.
And he's going to come home.
And it's going to come, and he's going to come home and he's going to be there, not only when I'm in a good mood, but also when I'm tired, when I'm hungry, when I'm needy. It's the same as anyone on here. I'm a parent, got 2 boys. It's the same that when my children went to school, they didn't trust their teacher on day one. It took time for them to trust their teacher. And by the way, who do I expect my children to trust the most in this world, apart from me and their mum? It's their teachers. And it takes time. And you might have that employee that will sit in them first 4 meetings where you go and actually say, right, 10 minutes, we're going to go for a walk. You might have that one employee for them first 4 meetings, not trust anyone to talk. But after that 4th meeting, he might look at you and go, actually, Raquel's making all the right noises. Actually, Raquel, whilst we're out walking, drop back. You got a minute? I just want to talk to you. And it takes time. And that's why it takes you not, we talk about investment all the time, but it's not investing money, it's investing time as well. And it's actually investing what's inside you. Like, don't make these noises just for the sake of making them. Really, and this is why I go back, I ask that question. What can you do to change your culture within your workplace? Can you be that person to say to your boss, you might sit in that meeting, you might have a meeting after this call. Why don't you say to your boss, who was ever chairing that meeting, that after, put them to one side and say, look, afterwards, are we all right just to go for a walk? I'm telling you now, as a construction director that has a team of people, if one of my guys was to say to me after our project catch up, can we just go for a walk and get a cup of tea at Costa? I'll buy them. Yeah, cool. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's walk to Costa and back.
Yeah.
I think,
do you know what? I think it's really powerful what you talk about, and I know that we've got. I want to share your social media tags, because I think it's important, because Jamie's not he hasn't been paid from us. He's a dear friend of mine that I asked him to kind of do this, and it's something that we as a business we don't get involved in. Client facing, we get people on, and our Use These Better group has very much kind of grown arms and legs, and mental health was one that we thought. It was Mental Health Awareness Week. I'm super passionate about it, and James, I couldn't imagine anyone else coming on and doing what Jay does, and I see it and I hear it on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We see it on his YouTube, and I've shared the link to our group in the chat box, and we've tagged Jamie on there. He does this for a living. He must be nuts, because he does it alongside his full-time job working in construction.
And do you know what? And I often wonder to myself why I'm tired. But yeah, I wouldn't.
But you know what, Jamie? If it makes the difference, and this is the thing with mental health. This isn't a one shoe fits all. This isn't something that you can put a plaster on. You can't ignore it. None of us can ignore it on this call.
Of course, no,
and in the wider population, and us talking about it, meeting about it, and discussing it, and even having someone like Jamie to come in and do a talk, or even us as leaders in our organisations going back, or a colleague having that conversation at the water machine and having a chat and saying, how's things, or how was your weekend, or what did you do last night? Favourite question of mine, like, how was tea? What did you eat? Like, it's that simple thing, isn't it? And Jamie's got his social media links, and I want him to share it. He's got them on a slide of a presentation that he does. But while Jamie's doing that, has anyone got any questions, or they need any advice of how they can implement that inside their own teams? You can either raise a hand and shout up, or you can drop it in our chat box, which is at the little speech bubble in the right hand side of your corner. I usually say that at the start of the call, but we got super excited and we wanted to crack on. So if anyone's got any questions, or maybe anyone has a statement of what they do within their business and what works and what doesn't work. But like Jamie said, we know it's a sensitive subject. So the screen's actually blank there, Jay.
Hold on. Yeah, no, so I've clicked off it. 2 seconds. There you go. Is that better?
Fab. We can see it. So we've got Instagram, we've got Spotify, we've got him on LinkedIn, which we have tagged on all of our mentions of this and in our Use These Better. And he's also going to be tagged onto our YouTube channel, where this is going to be uploaded. Now, I know it's a sensitive subject, so we haven't got any questions, but for any of you that are looking for advice, contact Jamie. We did speak to him before this, and he said, listen, I'm up for it. I'm up for help, or offering some advice or support for any businesses out there looking to implement anything. But Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit and talk to us, mate. I really, really appreciate it. And
thank you. Thank you. And like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to sit down and talk to you. As I always say, God always does everything for a reason, and there was a reason He gave me COVID this week, was so I could actually build the time in and talk to you. But no, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, and if I can do anything to help anyone on this call, please let me know. If you want me to come into your business, give me a shout, and I'll be happy to come and spend some time with you and your teams.
Jamie, no doubt. Rebecca, thank you so much for your message. She's just said thanks so much. It was really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Jamie. And guys, thank you for joining. And hopefully we'll see you all soon on our next webinar, which, Dave, if you come off mute for a second, I think that's next Tuesday at 12:30.
Yes, it is indeed, where we have Emily talking to Laura Chivers about building a team.
Yeah, I'm passing over the baton to Emily. Jamie, bit of feedback. We've got Amber from ISG, really insightful Jamie, thank you. I will share these thoughts with my team. And Clive said, great call. So, Jamie, fantastic. Thank you so much, hon.
Thank you. Have a
see you
wonderful
later,
week.
everyone.
Have a wonderful week, everybody, and I'll
See you
hopefully catch up
later.
with you all soon. Bye bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.